Hey there, Weeb Horde. I am the Goblin King, and I'm here to give you another anime review from the recently passed winter season. I'm actually coming to this review a few days after I watched the anime, and after these days of thinking about it, I've actually started to cool on it a little bit. It was still a relatively fun watch. It still made me laugh in various places, but now I'm a little more meh on it. However, before I get too deeply into my own thoughts and views on the thing, I'll go ahead and tell you which it is and do my usual breakdown of everything. The anime's English title is She Professed Herself Pupil of the Wise Man. Now, I know it's gotten a bit muddied recently, but the length of the title still suggests that this was one of those based on a light novel, which it was. This story follows the player of a VR MMORPG, that's a lot of letters, huh, called Arc Earth. He's been playing the game for a pretty long time, apparently. Long enough that his main character, Doombolf, is at a very high level and considered a master of his particular type of magic. One night, as he's using a cosmetic item to mess around with his character's appearance, he falls asleep. When he wakes up, he's been sucked into the game world in the body of his now adjusted character, who went from a sort of stereotypical Gandalf-looking wizard to a petite Bishoujo lolly character due to his previous adjustments. When he makes his way to his old haunts within the game world, he learns that the game world has become real. Many, if not all, of the players were also sucked in. The NPCs are conscious, and that 30 years has passed within the world since he fell asleep. Now he's got to adjust himself to a new life, in a new world, with a new body, while trying to locate and gather all the other high-level players, known as wise men, that he used to play with in order to unlock the mystery of this world and, maybe, to find a way back home. See, that synopsis that I just gave there was close enough to the initial one that I read that I figured I'd find this anime pretty fun to watch. It's an isekai, I do tend to like those. It's also a similar premise to those like Sword Art Online or Log Horizon, which can be alright. The whole bit where a few decades have passed in the game world is a bit new, and adds another layer to what has become a bit of a trope, and that was kind of interesting, as well as the body switching. So, you figure I'd like it a little bit more, but again, I'll get into that in a moment. Let's check out some of the fun character profiles first. Now, they may have mentioned the main character's actual name within the anime, but I can't be arsed to remember it. However, everyone within the series either refers to him as Doombolf, or as the name he adopts to more properly suit his new appearance, Mira. He is a high-level wizard within the game, considered to be a master of summoning magic and one of the 9 wise ones of the player-created kingdom of Archetype. When he incarnates into the game world, he keeps all his high-level sorceress abilities, just in the body of a silver-haired lolly. Other than this though, he's a pretty standard main character for a more fantasy-driven anime. Calm, cool, and collected. Doesn't like injustice. Stands up for the little guy. All that jazz. He's not a bad character in and of himself, just a bit standard and shallow. Some of the funniest moments of the show are when he's getting the piss taken out of him, sometimes literally, for being in a girl's body. Solomon is Mira'S best friend both in the game world and in the real world. At least it's spoken of in passing that they knew each other in real life. He's the king of the Alkite kingdom and actually assembled the rest of the players that helped found the kingdom, along with Doombolf. He's a decently serious guy but loves to pawn off his busy work to his nominal subordinates, such as Mira. He's also fun because he's the primary architect for many of the jokes that are taking the piss out of Mira for being in a girl's body. It's demonstrated throughout this season's run that he finds that concept completely hilarious and will take advantage of it at any opportunity. Luminaria is the only other member of the 9 wise ones who's in residence at the Alkite Kingdom when Doombolf Mira makes his belated entrance. She's been with Solomon helping to keep the kingdom and its people safe for the 30-year period that passed while Doombolf was asleep. She's a bit of a hothead and a master of elemental magic. She holds a small bit of resentment to Solomon for basically using her as a workhorse, and will complain loudly and often about how overworked she is and needs a day off. She herself was a pretty fun character in her own right, and it would have been nice to see a little bit more of her in the show. Now there are quite a few other side characters that Mira encounters throughout the first season. Many of them are previous NPCs, some of them are previous players. None of the characters aside from Doombolf are really shallow. There are a few that have some of the standard anime tropes, like the female lolicon wizard that's constantly and aggressively sexually harassing Mira whenever they're in a scene together, but they're all pretty fun and unique in their own rights. There are just a lot of them, and very few of them are even in a majority of the episodes themselves. Even Luminaria is only in a handful. That actually segues pretty nicely into one of my real complaints about this anime, and one of the reasons I think that I found myself cooling on it over the last few days. Which also led me to putting off writing the script for this video till the last possible minute. It's that the anime is legitimately all over the fucking place. It's almost the same problem that I had with Fabiniku, but at least Fabiniku's plot was decently linear, you know? That one just didn't have a set destination till the very last episode. This one didn't have anything. Much like with Fabiniku, this one just felt like a series of side quests that did very little to further the actual plot. There were hints and threads that would drop which hinted at bigger things going on in the world, but they were always dropped. It seemed like they were often dropped purposefully too, in favor of some new little side quest that Mira just absolutely needed to go on. For instance, there's a point where Mira needs to get into a library to find some information, to get to a point where one of the wizards she's searching for may have been. The anime then spends 2 episodes of her interacting with side characters and doing a stupid magic tournament in the magic school above the library so that she can show off her skills. Now, 2 episodes for something isn't really shit in the long run, right? I mean, I've watched many shonen anime where they take 15 episodes to move the story along like 5 minutes. DBZ, Bleach, Yu Yu Hakusho, Hunter x Hunter. So 2 episodes dedicated to a small errand really isn't that much overall, but when you only have a 12-episode run, that's a decently sizable portion of your runtime. Also, it wasn't just once either. It was every time. Every one of these side quests would wind up taking 2 or 3 episodes to pan out, and it really made it feel like nothing was getting done in the overall story. Which it wasn't. By the end of the run, even after the pretty laughable climax, they hadn't furthered the story one whit. They spent the entire run ostensibly looking for one of the 9 total wise men wandering around the world, and by the end still hadn't found him. Like I said, there were some pretty interesting plot hooks that were introduced throughout that hinted at larger events, but even these wound up getting shelved to look for the one dude they hadn't found by the end. By the climax of the series, we know that sinister forces are at work, but we know absolutely nothing about them, what they want, or anything. It was honestly a little aggravating, and it gets more so the more I think about it. Also, now that I'm thinking about it, this seems to be something that's particularly common to these anime and stories that have these OP as fuck main characters. Like the Slime Tauschde, for instance. That thing just plods. I like the characters and the general story, and the artwork for that show is gorgeous, but it's so damn slow. This one suffers from that same shit. Each episode is relatively fast-paced, but the overall story just plods. Unlike Fabiniku, which I had a similar complaint for, this one doesn't even have that same level of comedy to distract you from the meandering story the way that Fabiniku did. And much like I said with my Fabiniku review, I would give this one another season or 2 if it gets them, before divesting any time into it. If you haven't watched it already. This one surely needs a bit more time to mature and, hopefully, move its plot forward a little bit more. Otherwise, it is a perfectly serviceable isekai. Even though the main character is, again, way overpowered. Otherwise, I think that's all I can say on this one, folks. Whether you have or have not seen this one, let me know your thoughts in that handy section down below. While you're down there, all I could think of was a terrible Dragon Pink joke. If you've been watching anime long enough, you'll get it. Bobo. Otherwise, if you like what I'm doing with these anime reviews, do me a solid and join my big green horde by crushing those like and subscribe buttons. Like a goblin. If you watched this long, I appreciate you. I'll see you all tomorrow for Friday Night Tights and something pop culture. See you then. Lates.